Hello everyone, my name is Giles McEwen. I'm a textile designer and senior lecturer in designs. Welcome to my design studio. What I want to take you through is the very sort of straightforward and simple methods of creating a hand-drawn repeat block. It's one of the key methods of starting to explore textile design and also to have again an understanding of the repeat pattern process. It's a super simple method, and the video after this will take you through step by step how you go from this stage, which is your initial drawing stage. Key thing you have to think about when you're doing this, that you're not working straight to the edge. There's a little bit of kind of white gap, and how you use this to then create a repeat block. So this is actually a seamless repeat, and the final stage is that you work up to creating the full repeat block here. So the next little video will take you through step by step how to do this. It's a really good process as you start to understand about pattern and pattern making. Yes, there's ways that you can do it digitally, but by exploring the hands-on methods, you'll start to have a more intuitive way of creating repeats. So let's get doing our first hand-drawn repeat pattern. Okay, so let's get started doing the hand-drawn repeat methods. So before we start, there's a few things you need in terms of materials. I'll just put the drawing to the side. So a cutting mat, because we're going to be using a scalpel to cut through. You can use scissors, but a scalpel's better to get a sharper line. Masking tape, a ruler, and also your drawing equipment. With this one here, this has already been drawn. It's a photocopy, and I'm going to kind of cut through the photocopy, but it has been drawn using different sort of sizes of marker pens. I have a Sharpie, a thicker Sharpie there, the normal Sharpie, and a thicker marker pen. I've also got a pencil as well so that I can cut through the stage. So I've already drawn this one here. What you have to keep in mind when you're doing your cut through, that you keep a little bit of space around the edge. It doesn't have to be exact, but you don't want to work straight to the edge because you're going to cut through the actual image so you can do the cut through process that you'll see here. So I've already done this, so I'm going to put it over to the other side. Now you can measure halfway across, but what I tend to do for quickness, I fold the paper in half, and that gives me a straight line. So I'll use my ruler and scalpel to cut through the line. So I've cut it all the way through. This is why you need a cutting mat, so you don't damage your table in any way. So as you can see, I've cut through all the way through the design. So if I move it across here, this is a bit we need to work on here. So you're filling in the gaps really. And this is why you need that little bit of space so that you can start to think what you might put in here. But before we do that, flip it back over, and you want to secure it with masking tape. Little tip when you do this as well, instead of putting the masking tape on one long strip along, what I tend to do, because it's actually quite difficult to tape it all the way along, I secure it top and bottom, and then I'll use the masking tape and I'll put it all the way down like so, and flip it back over. So what we have here is the gap within the motif. So this is a bit that we're going to start thinking about filling in here. And you can, depending how you like to work, you might choose to use a pencil and sketch in some of the shapes you want to fill. And take your time with this bit here. Look at some of the motifs you've already got in the first part of the drawing and look at the direction. And you don't necessarily want, you've this sort of motif going here and it's creating this quite strong diagonal. So you don't want to draw a diagonal type motif. You want to change the direction. But I'm going to go straight in and using the Sharpie pen. It's easier for you to follow the process. So again, I'm starting to fill in the gaps. I might turn things around. Sometimes I might move the shapes around. So I'm trying not to overthink the process. I'm working quite intuitively. And I can go back in and fill in some of the spaces. Create a bigger things here. So that's the first bit with the Sharpie. I'm going to go in with a thicker pen because, as you can see, I've got this bolder line coming through, so I want some of that to come back through. So I'm filling this in. And it really depends how complex your initial drawing is, how long it will take you to sort of fill in the middle section. And also, I'm starting to look at some of the elements that's already within the design. I've got little bits, it's little dashes, so I might want to bring some of that back in to what's happening here. I've got flowing lines, but again, I might want to change direction with some of the lines I'm putting in. And again, I can't go over the edge because what comes in here comes back in here. So if I was to draw a line there, it's not going to repeat this side. So just be mindful, because you're not always working in the middle section. You might go back into some other bits that's closer here, but just be mindful you can't go over the edge at this stage. So again, I'm being playful with some of the marks I'm putting in, and you can always come back in and add to this. So that's quite a big shape there, so I feel as if that needs broken up a little bit. So this is you starting to think of how you can improve the motifs and again change the direction of things. Sometimes I'll rotate the image as I'm working through. Okay, so that's been worked in that sort of middle section there. So we're going to repeat the process, and this time we're going to cut through this middle section and swap it over again. So we're repeating the process. This time I'm folding the paper in this direction. I'm cutting through using the scalpel. You can at this point if you prefer, so you can see where you're cutting. Use the pencil to draw a line, especially if you don't have a scalpel. If you draw with a pencil, you can cut it with scissors as well. So use what materials you have to hand. So I've cut it through the middle there. I'm just going to flip it over again. So this time, this goes to this side here. So before we can work in this middle bit, we're repeating the process, flipping it back over onto the back so you can tape it up. Sometimes it can move, so this is why, as I suggested before, it's quite a good idea to tape it on the top and the bottom before you put the tape all the way along. And now you can put the tape all the way through. And turn it there. So what we have is this middle section, that little bit of tape's coming through. I'll just tape it underneath. So we're going to work in this section here. And just be mindful that you can't go completely to the edge. You can go close to it, but you can't go over the edge. So again, you can think about what you might want to sort of fill in using the pencil if you want to initially sketch out some of your ideas. Or go straight in with the Sharpie that I have here, or whatever drawing materials you're working with. And yes, you can do a very similar methods using Photoshop to digitally put things into repeats. But having sort of taught textile design for over 20 years, this is one of the best methods to start to understand composition and also to think about the positioning of motifs. And it's actually super simple to do. So again, I'm looking at some of the direction. There's quite a bit of a negative space here. So I might add sections. It's not perfect, but I'm playing around with different line quality and positioning. But I've been very mindful not to go over the edge. If that goes over that edge there, it's got to repeat back here. I can go pretty close to the edge, but I can't go over the edge. Same with this bit here. So again, I'll go back in with thicker Sharpie to create different qualities of line. So what we have here is a full repeats block. But again, before you think it's finished, have a look at the overall composition and think, is there any other bits you want to add in terms of it? Does it need to improve some of the line quality, make it a little bit thicker, or add little points of difference? So this has got a sort of stylized drawing approach. So it's looking at the drawing that you have done and thinking, well, what else can I add to it? Does it need something else? And the good thing about this process, what you can do, you can come back to your repeat block and keep adding things to it. Because at this stage, it's actually now in repeat. So that's the repeat block completed. What I often encourage my own students to do after they've done the repeat block, because you can't really sort of see it repeating at this stage. You can see how this element here will come back in here. These elements here are going to join back up here, but you can't visualise it. So something I encourage my students to do after they've done the actual repeat block, these are the ones that have done the same design. So again, they're slightly different from the original, had the same starting point, but different line quality. So I will get them to then photocopy, if you've got access to a photocopier, the actual repeat block 4 times. So what you can see is the overall repeat and how it starts to work. And it's a good idea to do this if you have access to a photocopier, so you start to see, is the design block working, or is there other bits that you could add to improve the design? With this one here, and again, this is a good practice to do this as you're learning textile design, it's got quite a strong line going through it. And I would actually go back to the original block and think about how I can break that up, because my eye's drawn to that straight line. So what would actually improve that if I went back in and broke that line up that little bit. So that's how to do a cut through repeat. So I hope you enjoyed that process.